Hey, you, wherever you are in the world right now, thank you so much for being here with me. We know that we're living in some volatile times and we know that the world is changing. So let's create a bridge as we travel through one another's countries, removing all the labels, coming together as one people, finding our home in one world. And as we do this, this is why our signature talk today, My Dad's Advice, Don't Wait Too Long, is so important. So let's jump right in as I welcome my guest, Suzanne Anderson. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be able to be part of this event for you.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today. We're very excited to hear about this topic, My Dad's Advice, Don't Wait Too Long. I mean, this sounds very intriguing and I'm very excited to hear more about it. But first, share with me and the audience a little bit more about who you are.
Who I am. Okay. So my name is Suzanne L. Anderson and my business name is Be Salon Savvy. I will explain kind of how I got to that place of having a salon consulting business. So ever since I can remember as a young child, I wanted to be a hairdresser. And you know how little kids always say things like, how many more days until my birthday, or how many more days until whatever it is that they're looking forward to. I was the kid who said, how many more days until we get to go to the salon to get our haircut again? And the reason is because my mom, having 3 girls, she would pre-book appointments 6 weeks out for each one of us. All 4 of us would have an appointment at the same time, all in a different chair. And it just, it made sense for her. She was multitasking. So I couldn't wait to go to the salon again. I loved being in there. In fact, BJ was the name of the salon owner, and I was playing with the chair one time, as little kids do, which once I became a practitioner, I hated it when they did that, when they played with the chairs. But so I'm pumping it up and spinning it around, and BJ says to me, if you break that chair, you're going to be in here for a long time washing combs and brushes to pay for it. And I thought, you mean I could hang out here and wash combs and brushes? So which later on became my least favorite job in the salon, of course. And so I tried like everything to break that chair. I didn't break it, but I remember sharing with my dad, like, Dad, I already know what I want to do when I grow up. And he's like, oh yeah, what is that? And I said, I want to be a hairdresser. And he kind of, I wouldn't say laughed, but he's like, oh, you'll probably change your mind 100 times by then, which, at that point, I mean, in some ways, I guess doesn't sound very encouraging, but he says, you know how many girls when I graduated from high school wanted to go to beauty school? And I can only think of one person that I know that actually did. And her name was Susie, and she actually was a customer of mine when I was doing salon consulting for a major distributor. But anyways, that's a whole nother story. And so at that point in time, my dad made me promise him that, well, this was probably later on when I was a little bit older, and I was still saying that this is what I wanted to do. And he said, okay, but make me one promise that if you ever get to a place where you don't love what you do, that you won't feel obligated that you have to stay because that's what you went to school for and you paid money and you did all of this. Like, give yourself permission that you will go and do something else. Don't wind up like me and hate your job every day. Promise me that if you find that you hate what you do, you'll do something else, so you'll never have to work at a day in your life. And I was like, okay, I can keep that promise. So I took a year off right out of high school. I wasn't a stellar student ever. Now, later on in my life, I learned I'm probably dyslexic, have not been fully diagnosed, but from everything that I've learned and heard about it, so I wanted to take a year off. Now they call that a gap year between graduating from high school and attending college. And again, my dad said, "Oh my gosh, please don't do that. If you'll make new friends or you'll do something stupid like buy a car and you'll have car payments and you'll never go to school." And I said, "I promise you, nope, that's not going to happen." And he's, "Okay, I hope you prove me wrong." I did. That following year, I started beauty school and I was ready. I wanted to give it my all. So I wanted to be rested and prepared and ready. So the following year I went to school and I was just all in and was for many years, wore different hats in the salon industry, super passionate about it. I love the industry. It's, in my opinion, one of the best industries to be in. So my passion started to shift after 20 some years in the industry to more paying it forward and giving back to the industry that had given so much to me over so many years. So I started an apprenticeship program eventually, and I loved it. I loved seeing people, the growth that could happen, and somebody taught me everything I knew. So it was time for me to teach them somebody, that what I had learned. And so it slowly evolved over time, and we'll get into how that happened. But soon Be Salon Savvy was born, and I am loving, especially during this time that we're having, being able to show salon practitioners a way that they can create the job that they have dreamed of and will love and be successful. So that's in a nutshell of where I started and how I've gotten to where I am today.
I love your story about being the little girl in the chair trying to break it.
I really did try my darndest to break it.
I thought what you were going to say, though, was that you would have to pay for it, because isn't that usually what people would say? Like, if you break it, you have to pay for it.
Right. Well, and it really, that's what she was saying, is I would be paying for it by working for her, washing combs and brushes. So anyway.
Right. But it's just so cute, because I can see that in my, in my head, like this little girl trying to break this chair. But I love the that whole idea that you knew so passionately what you wanted to do. I think there's so many people, like your dad said, that they just they change their minds over and over throughout time, and they have a different perspective of how they want to live their life, because they grow, they change, they evolve. So their life is different. But this part of you about your dad's advice, don't wait too long. Like, how does that come into this equation with your life and building the Salon Savvy? Like, how did that work out for you?
Well, yeah, I'm glad that you asked. It's interesting how it all came about. So to give you a little bit of background, my family was pretty much the traditional, what I consider traditional family, where my mom stayed home with us as much as she could to raise the kids, and my dad, his job was to go out and be the breadwinner and provide for our family. And so for a long time, I would, my dad even a lot of times had to travel out of state for work and things like that. So unfortunately, he was absent a lot of the time, just because he was doing his best to provide for his family. So oftentimes I've been caught saying, like, "Oh no, my mom raised us," because she was the more hands-on and always present. So she waited until all of us were in school before she even started. She did part-time work, which eventually evolved into full-time work and stuff. So But the interesting thing is that as I got older, I realized, oh no, my dad did do a lot to raise us. And I mean, I kind of already shared one of those stories in regards to, you know, don't stay in a job that you hate. And you know, promise me that this gap year thing. And anyway, so my dad's advice was always very short and sweet and to the point. He's very black and white. He was he didn't sugarcoat anything either. Like, you didn't have to wonder what he thought or felt about something. He would tell you whether you wanted to hear it or not. So this thing was happening. Several things were happening with me in my career all at the same time. And I will say that I was being drawn to, pulled into directions in many different ways of like, you're being called to do something different than what you're currently doing. And in one of the ways is just from a physical standpoint. There were certain things that I was dealing with that my body was telling me, you're not going to be able to do this for the next 27 years. So you need to start thinking about what your exit strategy is or what other streams of income you're going to need to have. So from a physical standpoint, just a lot of different, almost from every direction that you can think of, I was being shown, you're being called, you have a message and you're going to deliver it. Like, you have the power to change the world, which I believe all of us do. And this is the vehicle that you're going to use to deliver it. And sometimes, you know, we're just getting to our comfort zone so much. And I describe it to people a lot of like a fly or a gnat that keeps on coming into your line of sight. And you're like, go away. And you keep trying to like wave this annoying thing out of the way because you think to yourself, your mindset, your inside voice is telling you, you can't do that. What are you thinking? Who's going to listen to you? What are you going to do financially? Like, you have this loyal clientele. This is, and again, my identity. I mean, I've identified myself as a stylist, a salon professional practitioner, practically all my life. I mean, so you're just going to, all of that work and time and what you've built, and you're just going to walk away from that? That's crazy. Anyway, so that just kind of breaks it down as far as like how heavy, you know, this thing was, this pull. It was a tug of war where I knew I was you're doing this. And then the other, you know, the inside voice or whatever of like, this could never work because of this and this and this and this. And so I'm a woman of faith, and I've always prayed if like I need a sign, I need guidance. There's a lot of times when you think, oh, I need to make this move or do something, but I know the timing isn't quite right. And so I need a sign. Like, you're going to have to give me some sort of sign so that I know that I'm doing the right thing. And if and when I get that sign, then I'm committed. Like, I'm all in, blind faith. And so different times in my life, I've just needed that moment. There was a time in my life when I was working for a certain company. Things were changing. You know, it's one of those things of like, it was a small privately owned company and a big corporation bought this company, and things were changing. And I loved working for the small family owned business. And then, you know, when it turned into this bigger thing, it was just different. And I was really struggling with, is it time for me to leave and make a change, and kind of the same things. Well, guess what happened? I knew it was like, wait. And then one day, in a single moment, I remembered, oh my God, I promised my dad that if I ever hated a job, I would never stay. And for whatever reason that hadn't clicked in my head until that moment, I don't know, other than the fact that now I was getting the sign that I needed. Nope, now's the time. And as soon as I remembered that promise, I thought, I am breaking my promise. Like, I'm a person of my word. And so that was it for me. I knew with complete confidence that it was the time and everything was going to be fine and I would figure it out. And the plan was already laid before me. I just needed to walk down it. So that's an example of not the first time, but one of the times that my dad's message just was the thing that I needed. So fast forward to 2 years ago, and I guess almost 3 years ago now. So my dad, unfortunately, was diagnosed with terminal prostate cancer. And he was put on hospice, and my mom, it's, I don't know if you've ever been in that situation. I mean, hospice is great if that somebody wants to be able to go that way at home. But it really throws you into, if you've never done any kind of caregiving to that level and stuff. And so it was a lot. It was too much for my mom to be able to do just by herself. So I decided that it was time for me to take a hiatus from my practice and move home to live with my parents and help my dad, or basically help my mom with whatever my dad's needs were. And so he wasn't very comfortable with that, and he was a very prideful man, and he just didn't want to be a burden to anybody. And so the thought of his youngest daughter giving up her practice, and I didn't have to totally give it up. Luckily, because of my apprenticeship program, I had somebody that could step in and take care of my clientele the best that she could. She was an angel, absolute godsend. And so, but I was like, oh no, this is where I belong. But I needed to put his mind at ease about it. Like, he was so distraught over the fact that somebody was going to have to make those level of sacrifices to be able to care for him. So in an effort to put his mind at ease and have him be more accepting of me moving home, I shared with him that a lot of things were happening to me. At my own fault, I had worked myself too hard for too long and was in complete adrenal fatigue. That diagnosis had come, and now I see at the perfect timing, just right before his diagnosis. And so I actually needed a hiatus, but I also shared with him, like, I've been really feeling like I need to start a consulting business. Like, I have this burning desire to share my message, and I think that I should probably write a book, and I should, I just shared with him all of these things, and he just listened. I mean, he was a very good listener. And at the time, I'm just thinking, I'm just sharing this with him only because I'm trying to get him to accept the fact that I'm moving home, and I will be by your side as long as you need me to be, and him to accept that. It was very important. So after sharing with him all of the reasons why it was good for me to be able to do this, he just looked at me and said pretty much one simple line to sum it all up. And he said, "Don't wait too long. It's later than you think."
Wow. Holy cow, that's a lot to take in all at once. I mean, first of all, I can't even imagine what it's like to be put in your shoes and, go back home and have to take care of a parent like that. I know there's a lot of people in our audience that probably can relate to being in that position. And at the same time, you're, in a sense, parenting him, right? and reassuring him like he used to do with you as a little girl, I'm sure. So, I mean, it's just a testament of how beautiful you are and a testament of how you were raised and, you know, how much beautiful character you have as far as your moral compass and desire to give him that safe space to, you know, go through the prostate cancer and all of that, and give him the comfort and peace of mind that you've also heeded his advice that he's given you from the time you were a little girl, and how brave it is for you to actually do that, like take that courageous act and just go with it, because there's so many people that get those nagging calls all the time and they just, as you said, like an annoying gnat, they just kind of splash it away, and you know, it's like, nope, I'm not going to do anything with that, I'm going to ignore that, and it just keeps happening and keeps happening. So I'm really intrigued to hear more about how this goes forward for you, and hear more about what happens.
Well, so like I had shared before about the in an instant, once that had come to my memory of the promise that I had made him, it was the same kind of experience. Like in an instant, then I knew now was the time that I was going to have to jump in with both feet and burn the boats, so to speak. I'm a planner, though, just like my gap year. So I had to do some planning. I didn't just drop all my responsibilities and walk away. I gave myself a year and got things set up and organized. But the other thing, you know, my dad, he gave great advice, but he also taught by example in two ways. Either the normal traditional way that you would think of, somebody teaches by example, you know, they show integrity and things like that. But the other way that my dad taught was, he would say this often, do as I say, not as I do. Like being a bratty teenager, I would say, well, how can you tell me not to do that when you're doing this or you did this or whatever? And that's what he would say is, do as I say, not as I do. And so that's another one of the hashtags that I'll use a lot in my training, because I'm telling people these are the mistakes that I made in my career. And I'm here to say, you know, don't do it this way. I learned that it didn't work out that great. So you can either learn the hard way or you can learn from somebody else's experience. So in sharing that, basically what I'm getting to is that, you know, things progressed very quickly with my dad's illness. And so here we were like trying to pull information from him about, you know, how to take care of certain things on the property that he owned and that my parents lived on for many years. And so just in story, like quickly, all of a sudden you want to learn all that you can from them, because you've realized like time is of the essence, and things happen so quickly that I watched a man with a plethora of information slip away and not have the opportunity to share all that he knew. And one of the reasons why is he wasn't as patient as some to be able to share it, but still it taught me a lot, and it showed me a lot, especially being on the heels of the statement that he shared with me. And I just live by that statement now. I'm wearing a necklace. I have a dear friend that had it engraved, "Don't wait too long," on this necklace. And I have that saying, it's in front of me a lot. It's the wallpaper on my phone. It's on a storyboard. And it's really just changed my life, because you have no idea how much time. And so, it's things like, don't wait too long to forgive or say you're sorry or accept something, or or say no to something that's not serving you, and just a lot of different areas. But it was the push that I needed. I felt like I had his total support in making this significant career change. And from a man who was sitting in those shoes of like, I'm at a place now where I don't have time to teach everything that I've learned over my life. So that's pretty much how it all came together.
That's beautiful. And I just have a question asked. Did you write your book, or is that something that you're in the working on now?
Yeah, I'm in the process. There are so many irons in the fire. I'm self-proclaimed entrepreneur, and any entrepreneurs, I'm sure that you yourself or talk with, like, we always have all these different ideas that come to our our minds, and it's like, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that, and I'm really still in the beautiful building stages of my business and getting that really up and going, and so a book will come. So it's just one of those, projects that doesn't happen overnight, but I will keep at it.
And I'm sure it will be dedicated to your dad.
Yes.
Yes, it's beautiful. Suzanne, this experience that you shared with the audience, it's priceless. Like, there's just no other word than priceless to put on it. There's so many people in the audience that grow up without a dad, or have the ability to talk to their dad. Maybe their, father passed when they were a small child, or left when they were small, whatever it may be. So it's a beautiful gift that you're giving the world to share your dad with us. And I just thank you so much for that, because it's just so beautiful. And I know, with his passing and everything, I'm sure it's not that easy. So, on behalf of all of us, our condolences, and I know forever he'll be with you. I also wanted to ask you one last question. If I were to find your earth angel feather on the ground and I picked it up, what would your message to the world be?
Well, first I want to say, in case I don't get the opportunity after I answer this question, is thank you so much for those words. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share that story. Obviously it was huge change and pivotal moment for me and in my life. And shame if it was only for one, like, if it can help other people, like, it just makes that message that much more powerful. And I'm happy to share it for that reason. So my angel message, right? So it's one of the quotes that I use a lot. And it stems from a quote that I don't much care for. And that is, you only live once. And I'm sure, pretty much everybody's probably heard that, and probably even repeated it and used it, because it fits for a lot of things. But the way that I see it is, we live every day. Like, every day is a gift. And if you go into each day with that attitude and have gratitude for the day, even if it might not be the best day, or the weather isn't ideal, or whatever it might be, it's all about mindset and us finding the good, even if there is some bad. They come together, and it just, whatever you're looking for, you'll find. So I say, no. You live every day. You only die once. So make that the new message. I would love it, if hashtag YODO was the new one. You only die once. So that would be my angel statement.
Yeah, and combine that with don't wait too long to live, right? Because it's so important that you do live. So thank you so, so much for sharing all of this with me, sharing it with the audience around the world. I just don't even have words, to really attach to how poignant it is in this space that we're living in. And just to have some words of wisdom that can help people, it's just really beautiful. So thank you so much again, Suzanne.
Well, Catherine, it's absolutely been my pleasure.
Thank you. And if the audience would like to connect with Suzanne after our podcast recording, you can reach her at info@bsalonsavvy, or you can find her and that's on Facebook. And then you can also reach her at LinkedIn, Suzanne L. Anderson. And I'll spell that out for you. It's SUZANNEL, like Larry, not Larry though, Anderson, ANDERSON. And that's all we have time for today. This is Catherine Daniels from Retreat to Peace, reminding you to live your authentic life with peace. And as always, retreat to peace. And we will see you next time. Today, I am super excited to welcome my guest, Elaine Turso. How are you, Elaine?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. I'm doing great, and I'm very excited to have you. Elaine is known as Elaine the Brain. She recently retired from photography after 10 years of being an award-winning boudoir portrait photographer. Ooh la la. Elaine is an author and easily offends her mother with the title, as it contains the F word and her 3 middle fingers defiantly displayed on the cover. And her friends call her Elaine the Brain because she gets strange and innovative pop rocks to help people find creative solutions to their problems. I love this idea of pop rocks and Elaine the Brain. That sounds like so much fun.
It is, but sometimes it's hard to turn it off, but it's really, really helpful for other people. I always ask them if they want to borrow my brain.
I can totally see that. And then you're kind of pushing the envelope with your book with the F word, and you love to have fun.
This is true. Yes. I must have fun.
This is great. So let's talk about your signature talk today. You don't have to change your body, just your mindset. So what do you mean by that?
So I'm going to tell you a story on how I got to this place. So when I was 5 years old, I suffered with 3rd-degree burns. And it was, growing up looking different than all of the other girls in the locker room was really hard. And I struggled with that a lot. Like, I would compare myself to other girls, and I didn't look like them. I stood out, and that was really hard for me. After I got married, had kids and stuff like that, I was always the lady that I wore sweaters. I wore everything to cover myself as much as possible. I didn't want anyone to see that I had scars. I was ashamed. I was embarrassed. I thought people were going to, point their finger and laugh at me and call me a freak and blah, 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 all the crap, right? One day I decided I had purchased this really cute dress, and it was a spaghetti strap dress. And I would wear the dress, but I would always wear a sweater over it. Like, had to cover my arms, had to cover everything. And one day I decided that I was not going to wear a sweater. And we were going to the mall. And I come walking out, and my husband's just like, are you okay? I don't really know what's going on here. I don't know what to do. Like, tell me what to do. Like, this is new, and I'm not really sure what's happening. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. Because in my head, I had built up this story that people were going to laugh at me. They're going to poke in, just the horrible things that you think are going to happen. And guess what? None of it happened. It was all in my head. And so that was like my moment, right? Like all like I had this like rebirth sort of moment where I was like, you know what? I am going to stop caring what other people think, and I'm just going to live my life, because they're living their life and they're probably more worried about themselves than they are about me. And I found that to be true once I started photographing women. Boy, are women very insecure. And I really discovered that I loved photographing women and helping them see their power, helping them see their beauty, and really just giving them the space to discover who they were. Just by taking their portrait, something clicked within them, and it was the most amazing experience. And so what I started recognizing was that women were coming in to be photographed, usually for someone else. But they actually were the recipients of this enormous confidence boost. They walked out of that studio with a little pep in their step, right? A little more confidence under their feet that day. And I loved being a part of that, right? They thought they were doing it for someone else, but deep down inside, it was a gift for them. Yeah. And I wanted to continue helping women do that. And I decided to take it a little bit further. And I had developed a program, a 30-day program. And that's when I really, truly discovered that it was not actually about your physical body. It was all about your mindset and all of the things we've been conditioned to believe about us, like what society, the quote society. I still don't know who society is, honestly, because I've never met them, but they're pretty darn critical and make these invisible rules that we're supposed to adhere to. And I am like, no, done, zero. So I love helping people get out of that mindset that that you're doing something to please someone else. It's like, no, what about you? Because that's really, truly what matters.
Yeah. And I know for myself, I grew up in a situation where I wasn't allowed to watch TV. I wasn't allowed to have exposures to different downloads that people get. So I don't feel like I've, have gone through that too much, but I noticed that most people around me, and it's like everyone, it seems, because from a very early age, people are being programmed that this is how you're supposed to show up in the world. And it breaks my heart when my daughter, when she was in college, I'd go to the college campus and I'd look around and all of everyone looks the same because everybody is dressing the same, their hair's the same, their handbags, whatever it is, it all just looks the same. And it breaks my heart because we're supposed to be individuals. We're supposed to be our own unique person. And that's our gift to the world, is to be our own unique person. So I identify with what you're saying, but where do you find these women that are coming in for their photographs, where do you find that disconnect in them? Is it coming from that space of when they were a little girl? Or is it something someone said to them? Is it the images they saw? Like, where does it come from?
It comes from many, many sources. One example I'll give you was a gal that was in my program. She was our oldest gal. She was turning 60. And her mother was very abusive around her weight and made her stand naked on a scale every single day. And if she gained a pound, her hair was pulled, she was slapped, she was abused. And so she grew up in this unworthy environment that she was not good enough because she was not quote skinny, which is the least favorite word in the dictionary for me, is the word skinny. But she was not. And she was physically punished for that. And if you can imagine growing up with that torment, that you are never going to be good enough unless you are a certain size. Nobody's ever going to love you. You're never going to find a husband, which is all women are supposed to do. That is our whole reason for living, is to find a husband, which is, BS. But that's how she was programmed to believe that. And for 60 years, she did find a husband who turned into an abusive jerk after they got married, and forced surgeries on her, dangerous surgeries, by the way. She just was basically told all her life that she was not good enough because she was not skinny. And when I got my hands on her, boy, was that a lot of work. That was a lot of work. And we did a lot of work together. And it was just her finally having the confidence within herself to accept and love herself just the way she was. And interestingly, one of the beauty parts about when I was doing this program, this was a couple years ago, was the women that I was working with all found the courage and the confidence to let me photograph them. And this particular woman decided, she was like, you know what? I'm done hiding. I'm not even going to hide behind clothes. And she was like, I want to do a couple of nude ones. I'm like, okay, whatever, like safe place, right? And that was what she needed in order to find herself again. And I am happy to, when she came to me, she was like, her goal was to file for divorce. That was her goal. And I was like, oh, I feel kind of weird about this. But that's what she needed to do. She needed to break away from this person who was treating her so horribly. And she did. And now she is living a life and traveling and happy. And it's just, I don't know, it's just this transformation that she had. But it took her 60 years to finally start loving herself. And I feel like no woman should have to wait 60 years to love herself. And I see that when I was doing photography, most of the women that were coming in were in their 30s and 40s. And that was still too long to say, okay, now I'm going to love myself. It's something that we're supposed to hate ourselves. And I saw this quote once that was like, yep. And it said, if women loved themselves, imagine how many businesses would no longer exist. They would go bankrupt because they are profiting off of women's insecurities, that you're not skinny enough, that you're not thin enough, that you're not pretty enough, that your hair is not long enough, that you have to be this no, right? And I saw a video yesterday, just happened to pop into my feed. There's a woman that has a show, Juggling with the Jenkins, and I love her. She was going through pictures on the internet and reading some of the comments, and didn't matter what size a woman was, someone had something negative to say. And even the woman who was the thinnest of them all, then it turned to, she's too skinny, she needs to eat a cheeseburger. That's the kind of things. She was like, so all of these women were in bathing suits and were being criticized, including celebrities. And she's like, so it doesn't matter, wear the damn bathing suit because someone's always going to have something to say, but go out and live your life anyways, because these people, these internet trolls do not matter, right? We cannot allow these invisible people that they're not in our direct circle of love to have this impact on us, to prevent us from living our best life because we're worried about what someone else is going to think or say.
Yeah, that is so true. And for someone like yourself who had a situation where you have scars, I find that really interesting too, because for a lot of moms who have C-sections, their bodies have been altered, and for some, they feel this sense of shame. And that always breaks my heart, because you've had this beautiful gift of a child that you've brought into the world with your body, and to feel shame around that part of yourself is just heartbreaking. So how do you get someone to take that part of them that may have those scars to love themselves?
So I love to flip it. And I am very much the fact that instead of looking at what my body looks like, I look and focus instead on what my body can do. So my body is strong. My arms are strong. Yes, they may be flabby, but my arms are strong and I can hug and I can embrace others. And that is a gift. My stomach may be flabby, right? But it allowed me to carry two beautiful, healthy children, you know, and yes, I have scars, and yes, I have stretch marks, and yes, I have cellulite. So what?
Right.
I know that I'm not alone. And that doesn't mean that I'm less beautiful or that I'm less worthy or that I'm not worthy of being loved because my body is not perfect. Because I don't know about you, but I've never met a perfect body. It doesn't exist, right?
You're imperfectly perfect.
I have it tattooed on my arm. I am perfectly imperfect.
Yeah.
And I am absolutely 100% okay with that because I am a unique, amazing individual. And I celebrate the fact that I'm a unique, amazing individual. No one else is like me. And isn't that freaking cool? Right?
Absolutely.
I am absolutely okay with being who I am, and I encourage other women to celebrate who they are, and men too. Celebrate who you are, and that is absolutely good enough. You do not have to change your appearance in order to receive love.
Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to changing your appearance, I, often think about how people will do piercings, they'll do tattoos, they'll do, these alterations on their body to fit in per se, right? As far as how they view the world. Because as you look at time, you see people change throughout time. You see how things are accepted or not accepted, and you see a lot of evolution. But what is your thought around people changing to try to fit in?
I am not a fan. I think that, I've seen women specifically try to lighten their skin in order to accept more into another race, maybe. I have seen, I love to, there's a great Instagram account called beauty_redefined. And they are a set of twins and they are psychologists. And one of the things that they say is that your body is not an ornament, right? And so that is how we have been conditioned though. And so when I look at, like, for example, compliments, I compliment people on their decorations, the way that they choose to decorate themselves, not the thing that they have no control over. So complimenting someone's eye color, for example, they have no control over their eye color, but they can control their eyeshadow, right? That is something that you can add as a decoration. I'm not going to compliment someone's weight loss because I don't know their situation. I don't know if they're sick. I don't know if they intentionally were losing weight. But I don't want them to feel like they're better because they're thinner. They're taking up less space in the world. So I will instead compliment what she's wearing. That is her choice. That is of her choosing. Tattoos are a choice. I have tattoos. I have chest tattoos. I have arm tattoos. Like, I love tattoos. I think they're a great way, painful way, by the way, to decorate yourself and to have self-expression. Same with piercings and things like that. Like, it's a choice, but are you doing it to fit in, or are you doing it as a form of self-expression? Fitting in, I am anti-fitting in. I think that just by my mere existence, that I shouldn't have to try to fit in order to belong. I belong wherever I show up, right? I belong there. And we all do. But for some of us, there is this thought that I have to look a certain way in order to fit in, right? I always think of the Mean Girls movie. I don't know if you've seen Mean Girls, but it's this inherent thing that I have to fit in, and I have to look a certain way in order to fit in. And if I don't, I'm going to be shunned, and I'm going to be labeled as something else that I don't want to be labeled. And that's, I think, where we get into a lot of trouble, is that when we start putting labels onto people. I made a declaration a couple of years ago that I was shedding the labels that other people had put on me. And I was also shedding the labels that I had put on myself. And so I was just Elaine the photographer. And I didn't want to have that label anymore, because I was so much more than just a photographer. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a sister. I'm an auntie. I'm like all of these other things. But everybody was trying to shove these labels on me. And I was like, I am done with your labels and trying to fit into your box, because I do not fit into any box. And none of us should fit into any box. Like, no, we are not meant to be put into boxes. We are meant to shine authentically on our own. We do not have to have anyone else's approval in order to find love and acceptance.
Absolutely. And I going back to your photographer side of you, it's interesting because you were taking pictures of these women and allowing them to be in their own skin authentically, which empowered them. But as a photographer, when you look at, pictures on a magazine or in a newspaper or on the television, they say pictures say 1,000 words, but it's interesting because as a photographer, you can kind of design what that picture looks like.
Oh, yes. Photoshop is a real thing. And I was anti-Photoshop. Like, I was not, if people asked me to Photoshop them, I would give them a big giant 0. No, we're not doing that, because you don't need to be Photoshopped. No, I'm not doing that. I actually had one time a mother of a groom ask me if I would Photoshop her neck. And I said, you might as well just grab a paper bag and put it over your head right now, because you don't walk around with a Photoshop neck and you're so hideous that your neck is horrible and nobody wants to look at you. How are you even existing in the world? Like, that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And so, no, I'm not Photoshopping your neck. And if you ask me to take 20 pounds off of your body in Photoshop, I'm not doing that either. So don't ask me, because I don't do that. I'm here to capture you authentically as you are right now in your skin. And you will see that you are worthy of love without being Photoshopped. So I did not remove stretch marks. I did not remove cellulite, because that was not my job. My job was to capture you, who you are. And there are actually companies over in Europe that banned Photoshop in art magazines and things like that. And it actually started coming more over to the States, which is super awesome. There was a ad for panties coming through my Instagram feed. And the first thing I noticed was, oh, she has stretch marks. Oh my God, this is amazing. And I went and looked at the comments, and people were like, I am buying these just because you have an ad with a woman with stretch marks. I support this 100%. And I was like, yes, like, finally, a company who was not trying to shame us and to remove the things that make us who we are. Like, you do not have, no, like, I just can't. So it was hard, but if someone said that to me, they got a little talking to. We had a little come to Jesus talk about that, because it's not a positive environment, and you're walking around thinking that you're not good enough, and that, oh, just make me look thinner and then I'll be happy. And there's actually this, I can't remember the name of it, but there was this study, or not a study, but like this thing experiment. That's what it was. And it was an experiment. These people were intentionally Photoshopped to look like a supermodel on the cover of a magazine. and they saw the photo and they were like, this isn't, it doesn't even look like them anymore. So all of a sudden now they're like, okay, I'm happy with who I am because that version of me is not me. And I don't like that. It doesn't look right. I look sick. I don't look like myself. And so I'm like, yeah, so be careful what you wish for because you may not like the end result, right?
Right. Yeah, and I love all your key points around just loving yourself and just embracing that side of you that maybe you're not as open to embracing, because I agree with you. I recently saw an ad similar, and it was a woman in a bathing suit, and she too had cellulite and some stretch marks, and I thought, finally, like literally, finally, because that's the real woman.
Right.
That's the real woman. So
right.
I
And
agree with you.
Real women come in every shape and size, and they come in thin models, and they come in not so thin models. They come in every size. So when we say real women, it also could potentially demean women who are super thin models, right? They are still real women, right?
Absolutely.
And so that is something that I learned within myself, that I was like, oh crap, I should probably not say that. Like, I'm looking for real women. It's like, no, all women are real women, you know, and it doesn't matter their size. To be a real woman, it doesn't matter what size you are, what your dress size is. That's not what it's about.
Yeah. And I think, you know, the messaging of real is really around, you're not being photoshopped, because that showing up in your authentic skin is what's real.
Right.
When you Photoshop it, it's not real. It's
not real.
That's exactly. It's not real. It's not the actual person. So it is a very beautiful thing to see as society's transitioning into that space of authenticity. So amazing. So Elaine, I have one last question for you. If I were to find your earth angel feather on the ground and I picked it up, what would your message to the world be?
Oh my goodness. It's going to be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. And that's a quote from Oscar Wilde, which I actually have up on my wall, because the message is clear, is that you are an imperfect, amazing human being right now, just as you are. You don't have to change a thing. You don't have to change your body. You just have to change your mindset.
Well said. I love it. Thank you so much for being with us. And I so appreciate this message. It's so needed, especially in this age that we live in. So it's so appreciated. Thank you. A lot of gratitude for that.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And for the audience that would like to connect with Elaine after the show, you can listen to her on Potty Mouth Pep Talk, her podcast. She's also on Facebook and Instagram. Again, thank you so much, Elaine.
Thank you.
And that's all we have time for today. This is Catherine Daniels, reminding you to live your authentic life in peace. And as always, retreat to peace. We will see you next time.